Okay, today's class is going to be on disaster avoidance and recovery. Uh, we're going to look at what we as POS people can do to assist the restaurants in the case of a minor or even a major outage, and something that we as POS people should be aware of. Uh, there are a lot of credit card providers in our groups today, in our referral partner group, that may not be aware of the importance of some of the things that we're going to cover. Uh, First off, Floridians, and you guys know I'm in Orlando, we watch Waffle House when it comes to storms. And people laugh at us for this, but this is a thing. Even FEMA looks at what the status of the Waffle House is. They're open 24 hours. They never close. And even during a hurricane, they stay open during hurricanes, to the point where if you see a Waffle House that's boarded up, that means it's time to leave. Well, in this particular storm that came through here last week, Waffle House is boarded up. That's how serious it got. Uh, this is a satellite picture of the path of destruction. And you can see the path going through and snaking through all the way up to Virginia. And you can see the power outages that have occurred in the swath of that storm. Literally millions of people without power, and not really sure it's going to come back anytime soon. It'll be slow to restore as power lines and poles are just gone. They're just not there. And they can't turn the electricity back on because the wires that are there are sitting in water, and that would then electrocute the people around them. So it's going to be a slow process to get that back. In the meantime, what are they doing? And that's kind of where we come in and what we can do to help. So, causes of POS disasters: power surges from lightning strikes and other surges in the power. They are like little bitty hammers that chip away and peck away at the electronics that we use in our systems. It's a silent killer. It's not one that you see. It's not one that you can feel or smell. But those little surges that come through the power lines will eventually hurt and damage the terminals and printers that we have. So that is a cause of a POS outage. Power outages are another thing. This is where the power literally just turns off. Um, we have some remedies for that. And then, of course, is the loss of internet. Internet loss is more than just an aggravation. It can take the system down as far as credit cards and those things. So processing. So loss of internet is a major problem. And let's address those issues. All three of these we're going to address today. So power outages and surges, those most often are caused by lightning. I live in the lightning capital of the world. We get more lightning strikes here than anywhere else. So every one of my systems in my office and home are protected by surge suppressors. We'll show you the ones that I use here momentarily, but everything here is protected from surges by a surge suppressor. There's also brownouts. I know California, they suffer those where the power diminishes and gets weak. Well, that's a low power along with that. That also damages systems as well. And of course, lightning strikes I'd already mentioned. With loss of power, it's really the most common reason that you lose internet. You get a instant loss of the power comes back up, and now the router has to reboot. And now the system is absolutely without internet just for a few seconds, maybe a minute, while the system reboots. Loss of power can be an aggravation, but it also produces surges and low voltage that does damage the hardware. Even a power flicker can cause a problem. Just an instantaneous loss of power can cause a problem for the entire system if not protected. it can be catastrophic, as I've shown you in the slide where it shows where the hurricane path went. It's catastrophic in those areas. So for disaster avoidance, you want to use a UPS, which is an uninterrupted power supply. This is a very inexpensive solution, one that every site should have. Every system should have one of these. And as you notice on the picture, there are several outlets on top that can run multiple devices and protect multiple devices. It gives consistent power to every device that's plugged into it, meaning it's got the same flow of power no matter what comes into it. This particular brand will take whatever power comes in, and then smooth that signal out to that piece of hardware. They do come in different sizes. The ones I use here are 600 volt amp hour, so it does have a good amount of power in it. And this is the exact one with it, which has 7 outlets on it. It is a good surge suppressor, and it does have loss insurance included, meaning that any device connected to this device, it has up to a $75,000 insurance policy against damage from surges if it's plugged into this device. As I said, mine is a 600 VA unit. It has 5 UPS surge outlets and 2 surge only. So you can have 5 of them with battery power and 2 with just surge only protectors, things that you don't really care if it has a short battery, being without power for a short period of time. It does have 1 USB charging port, and as of today, I checked the price, it's $79, free shipping on Amazon. So it's not an expensive problem or solution, but it is a easy fix for a problem that you need to install on every device, every system. You should have one of these in the kitchen. You should have one of these on the router if there's a router in the office, and you should have one of these on the POS terminal and printer up front. Every device in the network needs to have this. Reason being, if you leave one device unprotected, then that one device can be the entry point for the surge that then goes through the Ethernet cable to the other devices in the network. So you have to have the whole entire network protected, and this is the device to do it with. If you had an Epson TMT88 thermal printer and running on this, it would then last for 15 minutes of continuous use. That's about 180 receipts. So if this printer was running on this UPS, it would run for 15 solid minutes of printing. And of course, you're not doing that, and you're not going to print 180 receipts. So it is a short-term solution for a problem. If you ran 2 of these, you'd be able to run for 7.5 minutes, continuous printing. That's about 90 receipts. And then if you added a printer and a PAX 835, you'd get about 10 minutes or about 120 receipts. That's running 120 customers through the system, which is more than enough to clear the restaurant when the power goes out. And that's really what we're doing here, is if the power goes out in the entire restaurant, we're now going to cover that exit of all the customers. We're going to use that device to make sure we have the power to do that. Then there's solar. We had a customer that really wanted to have a complete system powered for a longer period of time than just 10 or 15 minutes. This is a device that we recommended they use. It does have solar panels. It can run 2 200-watt panels. So you get 400 watts of solar that come into this that charge the batteries during the day. Then it would then run off that 400 amps during the day. And that's enough to power the entire system. Then at night, it would run off the batteries. So it can run really continuously for 24 hours a day. So we want you to understand you can control what you can control. Aldelo On our end, we've passed our security exams. We know our software is secure from hacking and entry. The iPads, you lock those down so employees can't play or surf the web. And then you use the battery backups that I've shown you here and put them on every device. And then that would give you a complete solution for that restaurant. It would be locked down. It would be secure from hacking, secure from surges, and protected if the power went out. So under the disaster recovery aspect, thinking of you if you had a crisis, that is no internet or your ISP is down, which can happen. You can have internet at the store and still have the ISP be down. If that's the case, orders are still entered, printers still print, kitchen displays still work, and the customer displays still work. Cash stores still open. So you are still, if you have power, you are still operating the restaurant. If you have battery backups, you're even in a better position to do all these functions. If you do have no internet or if the ISP is down, you're not going to be able to update the cloud database. That's not a big deal. You can run days and days and days. We've had customers run up to 2 weeks without internet connection. And all it does when it does come back online is it updates the database in the cloud. It consolidates all the data and then brings it back down to the store and updates the terminals at the store. So it'll hold days and days worth of data before there's a problem. Of course, credit card processing is affected if you have no internet or your ISP is down. So what we need now is to take care of that credit card processing and internet, and that's what we're going to do next. The solution is going to be a cell modem or a hotspot, or in this case, something we're going to introduce today to you guys is satellite. So what we're going to do now is I've asked Rodney, who is going to be my co-presenter today, to present the cellular options that you have. So Rodney, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Jerry. All right, so why cellular? Why is it needed? A cellular connection can be used as a backup in case of an ISP outage. You never know when an ISP will experience an outage or when a disaster situation will arise. So it's best to have a backup in place ahead of time to avoid and minimize downtime.
Yep.
Okay. It can also be used for mobile setups like food trucks or event merchants where business is not conducted at a fixed location. An internet connection may not be ready available there. A cellular connection does provide for an alternative solution. Okay, so how does a customer get started? Obviously, they want to get this done prior to an event like an outage taking place. They want to get everything done. If they don't already have one, the customer will need to set up a data plan with a cellular provider. It's best to research and know which carriers have coverage in their area or a given area, um, and know the different price plans before making that selection. They will be provided a SIM card that can be inserted into a router or payment device. Then the customer will need to determine what additional hardware will be running their cellular connection if in fact that is needed. Customers can work with multiple carriers as there are some hardware options that implement dual SIM slots, thus increasing the coverage if constantly on the move. Now, what hardware to choose? There's a lot of options out there. The first solution is great for event merchants and food trucks. If the customer already has a PAX A920 Pro, they may already have their solution on hand. You'll see the PAX A920 Pro does come equipped with dual SIM slots and can be set to process through the mobile network using 3G or 4G bands. With the PAX A920 Pro, it will have to be set up with a native configuration on the payment application, meaning the device will need to be running the Aldelo Express mobile app where orders can be created and submitted, and will be processing credit cards and print receipts from that same device. So you will have the point of sale, payment device, and printer all in one solution. Now, setting up the PAX A920 to process over the mobile network does require some prior configuration as well. So if you need assistance there or instruction on the setup, you can always contact our support team. Now, I've mentioned previously that the payment application will need to be set up as native. However, if the current configuration is using a sidecar setup where the transaction requests are being sent to the payment device, support can send an update to the device, and PAX has confirmed that the update can be sent through a cellular connection. Now, the next option is best for restaurants or stores at a fixed location, and that is to obtain a router with a cellular failover. Cellular failover is a feature that reverts to a cellular network if in case the primary connection is disconnected or down. This is the most seamless option as a disruption may not even be noticed. However, there may be a decrease in bandwidth after connecting to the cellular network, but more importantly, downtime is avoided. Regarding the hardware, this is dependent on the store setup and the number of devices that require physical connection. So let's say the store is strictly using Wi-Fi for all their devices, the point of sale payment device, and maybe they're using KDS only as opposed to physical kitchen printers. They can use a router with minimal LAN ports. However, if they do have devices that require multiple physical connections, then they would need hardware to accommodate those. An example that you see here on the picture on the right here, this is a Kudi AX3000. Now we're not promoting this exact model, but it's not shown in the picture here. On the back there are 3 LAN ports so that printers can be connected to it. It also has dual SIM slots to support multiple carriers. There are routers that have more LAN ports if needed. This router will use your landline-based connection, like your cable or fiber optics as a primary connection. And if there's an outage, it will automatically switch to the secondary connection, which is the cellular connection. One thing to note there, when looking into routers that are not provided by the carrier, it must be verified that the router is compatible with the carrier or carriers. For example, if the customer sets up a plan with T-Mobile, they need to get a router that supports a T-Mobile connection. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Now sorry about that. Let's go back here. Yeah, there are cellular hotspots provided directly from various cellular providers. In most cases, the ability to connect physical devices is limited, as they typically do not have LAN ports, or at most may only have one LAN port. So additional hardware may be required. If there is only one printer, this can be a temporary solution. However, if there are multiple devices requiring a physical connection, the hotspot can be connected to an external router or switch with multiple ports. And you'll see an example here on the right. You can connect the hotspot to the router. Then the Wi-Fi and physical devices can then be connected to the router. This setup is perfect for food trucks. And to that point, it's best practice to have a backup connection. It may turn out your customer may never need it, but it's like insurance. You're covered if the unexpected does happen. All right, Jerry, I'll go ahead and hand it back to you.
All right, good job. All right, Sterling, this is something we're bringing and introducing now as an option for restaurants that need satellite type coverage. It can be a full-time solution, and that means that you could use this as the primary solution for internet. There are packages that allow a minimum of 40 gigs. That's the smallest package that they have for full-time. And that would be sufficient if you did not have any images on the or limited images on the point of sale, because our point of sale messages are just instant little blips. They don't take long to send. They're not large and they're not a big transmission. So that would be the minimum that you would need. You also have a roaming package. This package is an on and off type package where it's month to month. So you could turn it on and then turn it off as needed. It has a 50 gigabyte is the smallest version that they have. Next up, here's the service plans. It shows the fixed site plan is what we're talking about. If this is a primary solution for internet, then they would use the fixed site. And you can get 2 terabytes a month for 500. That really sounds like a lot of money, but that's a lot of data too. So if you're going to be running a major restaurant with some streaming involved, that might be the package they need. But for our solution, POS only, 140 a month on the 40 gigabyte is plenty enough. Then there's the roaming plan. That's the one in the center where it's only $50 a month to do roaming. And that's usually for just emergencies only for us. That would be what we'd recommend there for that. Then lastly, there's something new. And this came up in a situation with somebody we know up in the area that is in the middle of the disaster in Tennessee and North Carolina, and that is a cell phone enabled direct link to Starlink without a satellite, without any other coverage. They had a basic cell phone that was able to connect to Starlink to do Starlink direct to cell, meaning you could text, voice, and data from a cell phone through the satellite to connect to the internet. This is something that's being tested now on T-Mobile for release in 2025. I don't know the pricing yet, but this has already been tested and is being used by certain T-Mobile customers. So this is the next level of hotspot, if you will. If you don't have cell coverage, no problem. You now have the ability with this device, with Starlink, connected to your cell for internet via the satellite. So we're giving customers freedom of choice, and they have several options that they should consider that you should present. And the first being a UPS for short-term issues, for short-term solutions. They need to have this device on every piece of equipment that you install. Everything that you install that has power needs to go through this device. That will protect that customer and give them 15 to 20 minutes of operation to clear out their restaurant in case the entire power is gone from the restaurant. They're not cooking anyhow if they don't have power. So they have to clear out the restaurant. This gives them the opportunity to do so. Then there's the hotspot for short-term outages. This is using a cell phone to run the internet portion of the system. This means that we don't need to be worried about internet. We have the solution with this option. Then the next level will be cellular for the longer outages, something that you could run the restaurant off of a cellular connection if you need to, meaning it doesn't have to have the internet. Now, well, let's say the internet goes through the cellular. You don't have to have an ISP. You can run through the cellular devices in the router. And then finally, satellite is a more permanent solution. This could be something that they can run the entire restaurant off of a satellite dish. So this is a new option that we are proposing that you give your customer the ability to make a choice. What do they want to do? Do they want to protect for short-term outages with UPS and then have the hotspot, or then graduate up to the cellular if they want to make a little more sure that they got the internet? And finally, satellite for the more permanent solution. There are options. You need to make sure your customer is aware of these options, that they do not have a problem. Okay, questions. What do we got for questions? Pleasanton, anything in the chat that we need to address?
Nothing in the chat, Jerry.
Okay. Jeff, I know you and I have been talking a lot about this. this past week with all the disasters going on.
We
We
didn't
were
start.
talking about 40 gigabytes being small enough if they were not doing a lot of pictures. Are you still comfortable with that?
Yeah. Um, Realistically, for most businesses, 40 gigabytes is going to be more than enough, especially if they've got a router in between that's handling all their print jobs. They're not going to have any problems with just 40 gigabytes. They're not. The amount of data we're sending is really, really small, and so there's just not that much being transferred back and forth.
Hey, Tim, you still want to unmute yourself? There
Yes,
you
sir.
go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you now.
Okay. Yeah, I just had one question. I wanted to know that, so for the Starlink, is there a special package that, we could buy through Aldelo, or it doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter. Uh, we're not advertising for them. They haven't paid us for this.
Right here's
You
what we pulled off.
can go to
Gotcha.
Starlink and do that. Select the package you want there.
It's 3 liters here.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
It really is a good option. This is the one I thought was very interesting, was the Starlink to sell. That's just fascinating to me. This is how it works. Cell phone direct to the satellite, then it's back down to their receiver, and then gets you to the internet. Voice, data, and text.
Jerry, one other question. So, a lot of things that, like, I don't know, yeah, like Dish, network, TV network, and all these guys. And a lot of them, like if a cloud is over, rainstorm or whatever, you lose connection. What's the story on that with the Starlinks?
They say they can still get it. They say their signal is strong enough to go through that weather. I saw that somewhere on here. Yeah, there it is. Weather resistant.
Yeah, Starlink will go through an inch of snow actually on the dish, on the receiver. So the big thing with satellite ones is usually the buildup of ice or snow. And they usually say anything over an inch of snow on the receiver will start to interfere with the signal. But up to an inch of ice or snow, it'll still work, which is pretty good. That's actually really impressive, um, stats there. So that's, and with a mobile device like that, go out and shake it off, knock the snow off it.
This is saying it can melt snow. They must have some kind of heating element in it.
They do have a heating element in some of them, depending on which one you get, that will actually even heat up and resist freezing and melt snow.
Yeah. This is a good solution. We've had customers who had spotty internet, who weren't comfortable that their site could get consistent internet. This is a solution for that. What other questions you guys have? I don't see anybody else raising their hand. Tim, thanks for that question. That was a good one.
You're quite welcome. Thank you, Jerry. I hope you weathered the storm good. We did here, didn't lose power, but about 10 times for a minute each time, and we're good to go. But we did lose internet connection for quite some time. I had a backup, but anyway, we're all okay. We still got a lot of people that don't have power here, but that's just the way storms happen.
Yeah. We had flickers off and on, and I had my UPSs all set the alarm, and they alarmed at me. They let me know that the power was out, but that's kind of obvious when it gets dark. But it still powered our router, which we were fiber optics, so we were underground. So we continued that with our internet. All our computers, all our devices were protected, and we never lost any of those internet or anything on the devices. Of course, we were in the dark. All right, guys. Then I'm going to call this done. This is important, and this disaster that we just had brought it to light that we really need to be prepared. We need to get ahead of these things for our customers. Take the time to learn about the satellite options. There may be more than just the Starlink option. That was the only one that we researched. But there are options that you need to have ready for your customer. And by all means, just start adding the UPSs to every site you put in. Just do it, because they are really beneficial. They will help that customer, and they will make you be the hero, and that system will not go down.